This video is a bit weird. I will talk about these games and spoil these ones. Also, every time you see this icon, I want you to blink on the third tick. This will make sense later in the video. Let's try it out, shall we? 1, 2. I see life a little differently to most humans. For most humans, I find that life is about making money as quickly as possible. It seems that everyone wants to become free from the government. Everyone wants to live on the beach with a pina colada. People want to get rich, and they want it quick. This is only evident by the sheer amount of money-making courses and crypto scams.
Holy fuck!
You full clip.
Holy fuck, thanks for the 20 bandos.
Yeah, he did.
Although that is a valid goal, I don't want that. Not anymore. I see life as one big hourglass. Time started basically when we were born. And if you want to be truly philosophical, when we were first conscious or remember our first memory. And time ends when you cease to breathe. The beginning of everything starts with you. The end of everything ends with you. This way of thinking is weird. This way of thinking may be very stupid. But seeing life this way, by seeing life as one big hourglass, it does mean people would put more emphasis on their existence and how well they lived. The way we all perceive time is very different and can even depend on your environment. In the dark, your sense of time will be skewed a lot. In the Mr. Beast video, Face Your Fears, this guy had to stay underground for 24 hours. 8 hours in, he said this.
Hoping for the love of God, it's been over 12 hours. I think that's where we're at.
I can't remember when I first heard this, but now, I can't stop thinking about it. In fact, there is another weird thing that can skew our perception of time. Something I and you have probably experienced. This is age. Doesn't it seem like time seems to speed up when getting older? This is quite common, and weirdly, there is a good explanation behind it. If you're young, each year passing by is a bigger percentage of your life. If you're 10, adding 1 year to your life is basically 10%. If you're 20, that 1 year becomes 5% of your life. I feel myself saying the phrase, there is no way this thing happened this many years ago, more than ever now. There is no way the OG Minecraft trailer, released 13 years ago, is probably the most recent one I said. I remember that experience so well, and yet it's gone, before your eyes. There is another question I want to answer. Why do we look back on old memories with delight? Sure, everyone wants to become a child when faced with becoming an adult and paying taxes. Everyone loves to wear rose-tinted glasses. But was being a child fun because our brains weren't fully developed? Or was it actually more fun? There were shows I used to watch as a kid. Over the past years, I rewatched them. And although they were good, they were never as good as I remember. That feeling I felt hearing the opening of a show, which I haven't seen in over a decade, cannot be matched. I felt sad they were gone, but happy I experienced them. Time will go on. Whether you do, Before Your Eyes is a game you probably heard of. But the concept is quite simple. Every time you blink, time moves forward. It's such a great game. I mean, no other game. Don't blink. Don't you dare blink. You're missing the good parts of the script and the animations, and I will spoil a bit of this game now, so play the game. You are dead. That's how the game starts. Because of reasons, you have to go back through your life, section by section. You have to remember the good, the bad, and the cringe. Just to be clear, you don't go through your whole life, just parts of it. Near the start of the game, you meet your neighbour. She's a bit weird, but I think there is another reason why we remember more childhood memories than other ones. Because memories we made as a child are much more interesting than those when we were adults. Although I do believe that each year having a big impact on your life when you were younger plays a big role. What interesting memories are there when you're older? And probably alone. Although Before Your Eyes is a game about growing up, I find it weird, but normal. Most of your memories were of being a kid. As you grow older, you seem to forget more and more things. Things you believe are important. So to combat this, we take photos. Not because we think we'll forget, but forgetting is inevitable. In the game Before Your Eyes, the main character had arguments with their mother. The mum wanted to train her child to be a pianist. Just because she wasn't a successful one, the main character skipped on piano lessons and didn't get into that prestigious piano school. A Short Hike is a good game, but the issue is, I don't know why I enjoyed it. The game is simple. Climb a mountain to call someone. Climbing the mountain is not particularly difficult, unlike some other games. The art style is simple and the music is good. You can just switch your brain off and play through this game. It's very easy. But I didn't do that. I found myself entirely engaged. People are obsessed with shortcuts, aren't they? Why wouldn't they be? If they can get to the same destination faster, why would they not? People who sell money-making courses and get-rich-quick schemes capitalize on that fear. People would always say that the journey is more important than the destination. And come on, how can that be the case? The people saying that probably didn't get the outcome they wanted. But recently, I started to think that I was wrong. Let me tell you the blueprint that most games follow. You start off weak, and then you grind, and then you become the strongest. Games can be a bit different, but that's a blueprint of most games. How fun would it be if the game gave you the best armor, the best weapons, or even the best abilities right off the bat? Probably not very, right? And if the goal for you in that game was to be the most powerful, you have done it. You have no reason to play the game anymore. This is why no game ever does this, no matter how much you want it to. The point in any of these games was never about the goal, but about the blood, sweat and tears you shed to get that. In the game Night in the Woods, you refuse to grow up. The town moved on. You seemingly have not. This makes you feel like, although this may seem unrelated, there was a FIFA which I packed in Mbappe near the start of the year. If you're not into football, let me allow you a few analogies. Imagine getting the ray gun in COD Zombies, or even finding the best weapon in Elden Ring. Imagine Hollow Knight gave you the best charms right off the bat. He's simply the most meta player. And weirdly, after I got him, I kind of lost all motivation to play the game. And I never understood why. But now that I'm a bit older and hopefully wiser, it does make more sense. If my goal in Ultimate Team was to get a great squad, I completed that. What was there even to do? If we talk about goals in real life, most likely, once that goal is complete, your motivation will go down. Until you get a new goal, at least. That's the reason why nobody is ever truly satisfied or forever happy. They always chase the next big thing, no matter where they are. There's a term for this. It's called shiny object syndrome. A homeless person can be happy with barely anything, while a rich man could still be unhappy while they have everything. I think I know why I enjoyed a short hike. Instead of being so focused on the goal, like any other game would, the game kind of forces you to explore and do side content. The end of the main story was fine, but since the game was never really about the main story, I actually found myself playing after the main story was completed. Something which I barely do. And I was having fun. The game kind of lies to you. The reason you played the game, the reason you climbed the mountain, the reason you made friends, was because of that phone call. And yet, strange as it may be, the game was never about the phone call. It was about everything else. It was never about the destination, but about the journey. The game before your eyes doesn't end at failing to get into school. It continues. You learn that he can draw quite well. So well, in fact, he got into a prestigious art school and got a lot of trophies. He had a legendary legacy, remembered for generations. That is the story of Benjamin Bryn, the guy you play as in the game. That game really inspired me. But let's be honest, not many people have the talent or dedication to do that. But he will be remembered. There are very few games which tackle the existential dread of growing up. But the game Little Gator Game, I feel, does it perfectly. The game doesn't have the best graphics, or even the best gameplay. But this game tackles what very few games do in the genre. You, the little gator, wants to get your sister to play with you, like how she used to in the past. But she doesn't. She has work. So you try, building a castle and making friends, just to get her to play with you. But no matter what you do, she doesn't want to. She has an assignment due. So you build a bigger castle, a better castle. She still doesn't want to play with you. She is busy. Instead of chasing the next big thing, you think about why you want to play with her. Then it hits you. The game is just not a game without her. In this game, the gator was so tunnel visioned into getting his sister to play with him, he couldn't see that what he accomplished was truly incredible. She is busy with grown-up stuff. It's not that she doesn't want to play, but can't. At the end of the game, you talk to her, thanking her for everything she's done for you. And finally, in that moment, she realised to stop focusing on the future and live in the present. By her being so focused on the end goal, she missed a great part of the journey. The same thing can also be said about the gator. In both games, A Short Hike and Lil Gator Game, the goal was never about the phone call or getting your sister to play with you. It was about everything else. By focusing too much on the destination, as we can see, we miss the great parts of the journey. This may surprise you, but humans are extremely bad at predicting the future. We all usually overestimate what we do in 1 year, and underestimate what we can do in 5. So, if grown-ups can't even do that, how can we expect a person who's 12 to? I'm looking too deep into this, aren't I? There is a play called Death of a Salesman, written in 1950. The story is about the life of an average salesman His name was Willie Loman. He owned a house, had a loving family, had an average job. But he had dreams, grand dreams, of what he wanted to do in the future. He never did them. In the final stages of the play, he took his own life, just to show everyone how important he was when they showed up to his funeral. In the end, only a few people came. The game before your eyes continues. This is the first time in any video which I'll ask you to seriously reconsider playing the game or watching a playthrough if you haven't. Don't worry, I'll wait. The story of Before Your Eyes continues. The story of Benjamin Bryn, the world-renowned artist, the pianist extraordinaire, was all a lie. When he was 11, he contracted a terminal illness. He won't live much longer. While in bed, he wrote a story you know quite well. In the final stages of the game, you blink a lot. The last few minutes feel like 30. When he sits there in bed, he thinks about what he missed out on, what he could have done differently, and how useless he feels. The same feeling probably experienced by the protagonist in Death of a Salesman. Benjamin Bryn is a failure, he thinks to himself. Willie Loman is a failure, he thinks to himself. A very human reaction. And then, at that final moment in the game, your mum comes in and reads you a story. It will probably be easy if I showed you, but it's a bit long. So as always, you can skip ahead. In some games, your focus is entirely on the outcome. You make good choices, you get the good ending. But in all the games and plays I talked about, the ending is set in stone. Sometimes, you even knew the ending before the game really even started. The goal was never about finding the correct ending, but the journey that got you there. Death of a Salesman and Before Your Eyes are more similar than you initially imagined. Both of the protagonists have grand dreams. They both didn't act upon their dreams. Both of these stories was never really concerned about the ending. In fact, in the first minutes of Before Your Eyes, the wolf guy tells you that you died. And the title Death of a Salesman is self-explanatory. From the start you knew that they were going to die. And yet, surprisingly, that made how they died hit harder. Both stories are about the horrors of growing up and wishing you could have done more. Both stories were about the life of an average person. In Night in the Woods, you don't really change much throughout the game. In the anime Frieren Beyond's Journey's End, currently the highest rated anime on my anime list, the story begins after another ends. There is no end destination where the character is headed, so the show is more about the journey. Yes, this anime is about doing all the side quests, and surprisingly, it's such a well-made show. Do you know what the phrase ludonarrative dissonance means? Probably. It's a very nerdy term. But basically, it means that there is a disconnect between what the player wants to do and what the character in the game wants to do. In Fallout 4, the character wants to find his son as quickly as possible, but you want to do all the side quests. All the games I talked about avoid this by making the destination simple. By Frieren not being concerned with how long the main story takes, the show can get by just doing side quests while avoiding ludonarrative dissonance. A short hike and little gatey game is never concerned with how long the main story takes. so you can just enjoy the journey. All of us focus on the destination a bit too much. The reason people don't look up walkthroughs of games is that it would take away from the joy of beating the game yourself. Although it would be quicker, beating the game yourself would just bring more joy. The same reason we don't look up endings of shows we like is because it will spoil it for us.
System that's helping to organize my life,
Because
improve my
productivity gurus
workflow,
says
remember
that
more
your
of
brain
what I
is for
learned,
having
and add
ideas,
creativity
not
to
for
my
There is this genre on YouTube all about productivity. And to my surprise, this genre is extremely popular. People want to be more productive. If productivity is about getting to the end goal as quickly as possible, if productivity is about optimizing everything and doing it the fastest you can, how would we enjoy the journey? Before your eyes won't hit as hard if you clicked or blinked every time the icon popped up. Before your eyes wouldn't hit as hard if you tried to speedrun it. When people are on their deathbed, usually the thing they want most is not the trophies they won or the money they accumulated, or even anything tangible they have. The thing they want most is the family and friends beside them, before their eyes. We look at everyone around us and think that we want what they have. Everyone wants to win the lottery. But surprisingly, most lottery winners are not happy long term. And that is, I think, because the amount of money they got out and the amount of effort they put in was disproportional. In other words, the journey was non-existent, so the enjoyment was temporary. I would compare it to a game giving you the best armor within an hour of playing, or me packing Mbappe, if that makes any sense. This may sound weird, but in reality, we don't actually want the money, or the fame, or even the lifestyles of our favourite celebrities. What we want is the journey that got them there. The good, the bad, the cringe, and the ugly. We as humans want to reach the end goal. And once we do get it, we wish we could have enjoyed the journey more. And once we realise that, it's too late. Death of a Salesman was supposed to be about the life of an average person more than 50 years ago. And unfortunately, I can't think of a recent example of how an average person would live now. It's very hard for me to articulate how these games and media made me feel. But I tried. And hopefully by doing so, you can feel what I felt. But I don't think I'm doing a very good job at it. I feel like the wolf in the story. I just can't seem to tell it right. If you made it this far, I thank you. And hopefully not for the final time. If the enjoyment in a game is all about the journey, why don't we see our lives the same way? Beating the game is sadder than game over. The journey is more important than the